From the heart of an empire forged in iron and blood, rose men whose names were whispered in both reverence and terror. These were not just generals, they were architects of fear, titans of the battlefield whose ambition knew no bounds. This is the story of Rome's most ruthless commanders. Our journey begins in the shadow of the Colosseum, where the spectacle of life and death was a daily ritual. But the true arena of Roman power was not on the sands of the amphitheater, but on the sprawling frontiers of the Republic and later the Empire. It was here that men like Gaius Marius reshaped the very fabric of Roman society. A new man from a humble background, Marius's military reforms created a professional army loyal not to the Senate, but to their general. He gave landless citizens a career, a sword, and a purpose. In return, they gave him absolute devotion. His victories against the Teutones and Cimbri were legendary, but his methods were brutal. He didn't just defeat his enemies, he annihilated them, setting a terrifying precedent for the civil wars to come. Then came Lucius Cornelius Sulla. A rival to Marius, Sulla was an aristocrat with a chilling capacity for cruelty. After marching his army on Rome itself, an unprecedented act of treason, he declared himself dictator. To secure his power, he introduced the proscriptions, a legalized murder list. His enemies, real or imagined, were hunted down in the streets. Their properties were confiscated, their families ruined. The Forum, once the heart of Roman discourse, ran red with the blood of its citizens. Sulla showed Rome that the ultimate power came not from the ballot box, but from the blade of a legionary's gladius. He ruled through pure, unadulterated fear. Of course, no story of Roman ambition is complete without Gaius Julius Caesar. A military genius, a masterful politician, and a charismatic leader, Caesar's conquest of Gaul is a masterclass in Roman warfare. Over a decade, he subjugated hundreds of tribes, his legions cutting a path of conquest through modern-day France and Belgium. He built bridges, besieged impregnable hill forts, and fought against overwhelming odds. But behind the genius was a ruthless pragmatist. At Alesia, he encircled the Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix, building a massive wall to trap the Gauls and another to keep reinforcements out. He starved them into submission, a calculated act of cruelty that broke the back of the Gallic resistance. For Caesar, the goal justified any means, and the goal was always absolute power. His crossing of the Rubicon was not just a river, it was a boundary between the Republic and his own ambition, a point of no return. Following Caesar's assassination, his heir Octavian would prove to be just as ruthless, if more subtle. Allied with Mark Antony, he unleashed a new wave of proscriptions, even more brutal than Sulla's, to eliminate their political rivals and fund their armies. Cicero, the great orator and defender of the Republic, was one of their most famous victims. After defeating Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian, now known as Augustus, masterfully cloaked his autocracy in the language of the Republic. He called himself first citizen, but he was Rome's first emperor, holding absolute control. He brought peace, the Pax Romana, but it was a peace built on the foundations laid by decades of bloodshed and the elimination of all who opposed him. These men were products of a society that valued strength, honor, and victory above all else. They were celebrated as heroes, their triumphs carved into the arches and columns that still stand today. But in the shadows of these monuments lies a darker truth. They were masters of psychological warfare, understanding that control over an empire was maintained not just by legions, but by the strategic application of fear. They held the power of life and death over millions, and they did not hesitate to use it. From the scorched fields of Gaul to the blood-soaked streets of Rome itself, their legacy is a complex tapestry of glory and terror, a testament to the brutal, unforgiving nature of Roman power. Their stories serve as a timeless, chilling reminder that the path to empire is often paved with the bones of the conquered and the ambitious alike. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by the raw and often brutal history of the ancient world, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories from the annals of time.